Welcome to the Chats with Chaudhrey. I hope you're safe and well and having a great start to 2025. Today, I'm carrying on my interview series on reflections and forecasts, where I look back on 2024 and look ahead to 2025 with senior executives across life science, pharma, and biopharma. And today, I'm delighted to be catching up with my good friends at InSphero, who are Jan Lichtenberg, CEO of InSphero, and Madhu Nag, who is the Chief Scientific Officer. And we're going to learn a bit more about InSphero and what they thought about the last year and what their predictions are for 2025. So first of all, Jan, Madhu, it's lovely to see you both. How are you?
Well,
Doing
first of
very
all,
well, thank
thanks
you.
for having us. It's great to be on the call.
Well, it's lovely to
Very
see you.
enjoyable.
And I know you've been traveling a lot this week at JP Morgan in San
Mhm.
Francisco. So was that a good show?
No, was excellent. I mean, JP Morgan is fantastic, right? It's a great start into the year. Everybody's there. Our customers from the pharma side, business partners from the life science tools business, and of course also other companies that are active in driving forward the organ on chip and 3D cell culture space. And so it's a great opportunity to touch base, to see how things go, to develop ideas for growth during this year. And yeah, it's been fantastic. Weather's been good, so that makes things a lot easier in San Francisco.
And Madhu, were you in San Francisco as well?
I was in San Francisco. I will be on the West Coast though in a week at the SLAS in San Diego.
Great. Well, we'll touch on that. And actually, maybe
Yes.
JP Morgan may inform you a little bit, yeah, when we start talking about predictions for next year, or this year, I should say. So let's start, though, by looking back on 2024. But before we do that, for viewers not familiar with InSphero, Jan, maybe you could just give us a quick overview of who InSphero are and what you actually do.
Definitely. So InSphero is a company based in Switzerland with subsidiaries in the US. We are the pioneer of 3D cell-based assays in a scalable commercial level. We are focusing on spheroids. We are also looking into organoids. We have organ-on-chip systems. Our interest is to create reliable, industry-compatible, automation-compatible, robust solutions for customers in the biotech and pharma space to improve their workflows in drug discovery and drug safety. And our models are typically primary cell-based. We're very much focused on human models, and we have a wide range of solutions, I think in total around 100 different model types across spaces like liver safety, liver discovery, diabetes research, and oncology.
Right. Madhu, anything to add to what Jan just said?
Well, I think Jan articulated it beautifully, but I think what makes us stand out really is that we've been in the market for about 14, going on 15 years now. So we've stood the test of time, and now that the market is ready for us, I think we're sort of really, really ready to leap into it.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about 2024. And first question I ask everybody is, how would you describe 2024 in one word? And yeah, maybe you'd like to say how you would describe 2024 and why.
So I think the one word for us is breakthrough, because we really saw how scalable microtissue models have made their true market entry in the industry, right? So I think the last 4, 5, 6 years were marked for me by a strong interest in the pharmaceutical industry, but still more from an evaluation perspective. So customers looked at various solutions, different suppliers, but most notably, totally different technological paradigms on how to implement complex in vitro systems in their workflows. And only a minority was already so well in advance that they started to use these technologies commercially. And what has changed in 2024 is that, in my opinion, it's really upside down. So now we see much more direct commercial adoption of these solutions that has led to a stellar growth for the company, the best year that we had in our history. But even more importantly, we are becoming a solid part of the workflows in our business partners' development programs, and that's exciting.
Okay, and before I come to you, Madhu, let me ask you one question about that, though. Jan, what do you think has caused that breakthrough to happen this year as opposed to previous years?
So I think that some boundary conditions might have played a role. The FDA Modernization Act, which has been 2.0, which has been implemented now 2 years ago, right? I think is showing more impact because the industry sees that transition now as something that moves forward. We see a stronger interest in novel modalities, ADCs coming back, being very hot topic also at JP Morgan, antisense nucleotides, bispecific antibodies, and so on. So the interest in the human in vitro model is growing, and it's not just a potential replacement for an animal, but it's actually the better solution to generate translational data. But I think the key driver is that the market is maturing, and that means that the customer, the pharmaceutical and biotech companies, now have a better understanding what they are actually looking for and how they want to use these solutions in the market. And then uniformity, robustness, reproducibility, scalability, automation, compatibility, but also aspects of cost efficiency start to play a much more important role. And that's where our technology platform is such an excellent market fit, because we can deliver the same throughput as customers are used to from 2D cell culture, but with a much more advanced, with a much more valuable, with a much more insightful technology. And so we feel that the compatibility between customer needs and what we can deliver is extremely high, and it's probably much better than with most of our competition in the field.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Now, Madhu, same question to you. Give you a bit of time to think about it.
Yeah,
What
you
word would
know,
you use?
my word would have been transformative, so very close to, what Jan used. And I think um, one of the themes is very close to what Jan said, right? So it's the FDA Modernization Act 2.0 at the end of 2022, which played a huge role in getting people to understand, why it's important, and that the fact that the FDA was getting closer and closer to the acceptance, right? Because the biggest barrier has been widespread adoption,
Right.
because there's this sort of like this nexus. There's the regulatory authorities, there's the method developers, which are all of us, and then there's pharma. But I think there's been a much better interaction. There's been a much better conversation between the sort of the three major groups, which has led to the development of this conversation, sort of this three-way conversation, I think, which, as Jan said, has sort of led to a much wider adoption of our models sort of across the board.
Brilliant. Now, Jan, you alluded to some of this already in your first answer, but what were some of the key highlights for you in terms of InSphero for 2024?
Well, there were many, but I think to start with the solution space, we've launched some fantastic new solutions in the metabolic disease space, especially diabetes and liver disease like MASH. New readouts, beta cell proliferation is something that we've been working a lot over the past years to really get it perfect. And that's a platform that we have now that is extremely well received in the diabetes research community. With our MASH offering, we've started more standardized services that reduce the cost for customers and make it a lot easier to test a larger number of compounds. So I think that was fantastic. We've had a great publication together with the toxicology center at FDA to evaluate the predictive performance of our 3D liver microtissues for liver safety testing. It's the largest study on 3D microtissues today with 150 compounds. Stellar results in terms of sensitivity and specificity. So exactly what people are looking for. And we've taken a very high bar because we only looked at compounds that actually made it to the market, to understand, can we, despite all the scrutiny that went into getting these compounds out, can we still see toxic effects that were initially overlooked and then led to a withdrawal of these compounds? So I think that was an amazing step forward. And then a little bit more on the internal side, we've expanded our lab space into the next building. We are growing and we are ready for future growth And we're happy to see the company not only performing well from the outside perspective, but also by increasing our capabilities internally, by adding new talents to our team, and yeah, being ready for the next value inflection steps for InSphero.
Right, thanks. And same question to you, Madhu. It's a bit harder because I think Jan's stolen some of your thunder there by talking about some of the things you mostly would have talked about. But what, from your perspective, what have been some of the highlights for you?
Typically, I think, as I think we're going from strength to strength, right? And I think we are able to deliver something to the market that that has been a previously sort of like an unmet need in the space of personalized medicine. So, for a lot of people who are working with cell lines and, immunocompromised models, what we're able to do with patient-derived cells, with iPSC-derived models in a spheroid, sort of a microtissue-based model, whether it's oncology, whether it's immune oncology, whether it's MASH, donor-derived differences. Jan has already spoken about sort of our diabetes model. In the disease space, as well as the toxicology space, we're doing personalized medicine. We are representing the heterogeneity of the patient population in a preclinical space, both on the efficacy side, but also on the toxicology side. We're going into safety pharmacology, looking at new models there. And then also something that we're really excited about is also translating or sort of getting to the next stage with organoid models. So that's sort of our plan going from 2024 into 2025. So I'm very excited about that from our perspective, growing into the science.
Fantastic. Now let's flip that a little bit though, and let's talk about some of the challenges that 2024 had for you. And maybe, Madhu, you want to start this one. Is that from your perspective, what have been some of the challenges that you faced in the last year or so?
So I think I would like to split that into the challenges that the field faced,
Sure.
and then sort of like us at InSphero being a part of that field. And then I think it sort of it leads in from, again, the conversation about the people in the space, right? So the new approach methodologies exist as an ecosystem. And I don't think all the people in the ecosystem sort of know where they belong yet. So again, it's a conversation that we're having until we're at a space where the regulatory authorities actually say, yes, we will accept this in lieu of animal studies. There won't be widespread adoption of this. So I think we're working towards it. Like, as Jan mentioned, we have a great liver toxicology platform. It's scalable, it's reproducible. We're able to generate a lot of data that a lot of our customers say, once they've used it, they've never sent a bad molecule, further into a clinical space. But all of this has to go into multiple INDs for the FDA to accept it. That being said, there are still areas of unmet need, with neurotox, with reproductive tox, with carcinogenicity that the field needs to build up. So I think that's an area where till we build up a lot more on the toxicology space, the area as a whole, I think NAMS as a whole will sort of will take a little bit more to be mature enough for it to completely replace animal models where it's going to be useful enough to do so. As far as InSphero is concerned, I don't know that we had any, as Jan said, I think this was one of our best years. I think we did a great job with the team that we had, but one of the challenges I would say we had was we grew with the bandwidth that we had. And so that was a challenge because we worked with the number of people that we had to get to where we did. And, we were bursting at the seams towards the end of the year, but, it's a good challenge to have.
And yeah, from your perspective as a CEO, what have you seen as the challenges in the last 12 months and both from a company perspective and also from a macro level as well, I suppose?
From macro level. So company-wise, I fully agree with Madhu. Scale up is hard, right? And scale up you're not removing bottlenecks, you're just moving the bottleneck from one topic to the next, right? And so we just need to sort of accept our fate here and make sure that we take good decision and prioritize our resources so that, we make sure that we grow in volume, but we also continue to grow in quality in terms of the solutions that we deliver. And I think we've done well, but it's never an easy job. And, I think everybody was pretty happy to go into the Christmas break at the end of the year. From a more market perspective, macro side, the whole complex in vitro model market, and we are part of this, is very, very fragmented. The biggest companies have 100 FTEs, 100 people, and then you have a much larger number of smaller companies. And it doesn't make it easy for customers to find the right solution for their specific applications. But it's also hard for the different competitors in that market to survive and to grow, right? It's especially when you're small and you don't have a sales team and marketing team, it's a very tough thing to do. And so, one of the important things for me, and I'm already looking a little bit into this year now, is that we start to build more alliances between the companies, that we're trying to understand the need for end-to-end solutions for customers. We need to be very acutely aware of the place that our solutions have in the value chain and which context of use they are made for, and also accept that there are other solutions which might be better for certain applications. And then we could combine interests and deliver kind of end-to-end solutions to the customer that would combine services or products from different companies. So I think this is important because ultimately the market is only going to switch from 2D or from animal testing to complex in vitro models if the customer gets the problem solved that they have. And it's not about us being able to do good business. It's about the customer finding the solutions that they want and getting the success that they are looking for. And then our market is going to grow and the companies are going to flourish.
That's a very good point. I think SLAS last year was a very good example of that. When you looked at a lot of the stands in Boston, companies were illustrating workflows with other people's instruments as well as their own, so they could show customers the complete workflow rather than just saying,
Very good point.
here is our instrument, this is what it does, but then that isn't the complete solution, is it? That's only one element that the customer's looking at. So I think you saw that at SLS, and also you saw that at many other shows in other segments like Akima and other big shows I went to, where you saw a lot more collaboration or other people's products on people's stands, thinking, oh, that's not your product. Ah, yes, but that's we work in collaboration. And I think that's grown a lot out since the pandemic as well, because I think the pandemic started that initial collaboration where people started to open their eyes and say, we need someone else who may be a direct competitor, or we perceive them as a direct competitor to maybe help the customer. So right. Well, let's talk about trends, and that sort of touches on trends a little bit, what you just said there as well. So what are some of the key trends that you saw emerge in 2024? Yeah, maybe you can start this one off.
So what we clearly see that there is a growing interest in what we would call precision microtissue models. So the interest in implementing these models in industry workflows means that the volumes that are required go up. The expectations on the customer side in terms of delivery times, turnaround times, is going to be more aggressive, right? And we need to respond to that. But it's a luxury problem, right? That's what we were looking for. Precision medicine, Madhu already touched on this, will play a more important role. Understanding how different patient populations are responding to a drug, both in terms of efficacy, but also safety, right? If you have certain vulnerabilities in your patient population, wouldn't you want to reflect this in your safety testing as well? Because these people might be also more vulnerable to potential side effects to your solution. So I think that's something that we are bracing for, and that's why we're investing in automation into the extra lab space to be able to fulfill these demands that our customers have. And we also, that's my expectation, but I'll let Madhu talk about this because she's more involved, encouragement from the regulatory side to submit more NAMS data and to also collaborate with technology suppliers like ours to help investigating how these models can be used in a regulatory environment will be very important. And I think the interest is there on the regulatory side.
Well, that switches lovely over to you, Madhu. And obviously, we're talking more specifically, if I get my dentures in, specifically about 2024. We'll touch on 2025. About what trends did you see emerge in 2024?
So, as Jan mentioned, I think we saw a much friendlier regulatory environment. They're sort of coming out, welcoming new data. They have the iSTAN program, but that's not just the iSTAN program. There are multiple groups within CEDAR, CBER, all the regulatory sort of like branches. In fact, we've had our VP of Liver Safety present to the liver safety interest group throughout the FDA on that sort of landmark paper that Jan was talking about. And in fact, I think this really gives you a sense of how the FDA is moving out of its shell to embrace the idea of looking at that in vitro to in vivo translation, because that has actually never been looked at before. We look at in vitro data in silo, and then in vivo data, human data, clinical data lives behind a firewall. The whole idea that we are actually looking at this together and seeing how one affects the other, or how you can extrapolate one to the other, is actually, believe it or not, a new concept. So that was a key sort of trend that emerged this year. Another one that I think in the same bucket, but a little further away from regulatory, is the idea of combinatorial NAMs. And I think Jan touched upon this, right? In the ecosystem, we all have a specific space, but you need a combination of different approaches to solve a particular problem. So we've seen a lot of, especially with our solution being so scalable and reproducible, a lot of integration with in silico modeling to be able to, because the data that we can produce is so scalable and reproducible, it can go into the building of many AI developed sort of like algorithms, right? So a lot of the in silico modeling, a lot of predictive algorithms that can be built is built using our models. And, that's something that we are heavily utilized for, at least, going into the second half of last year. We saw an uptick in that. And I believe a lot of that will also be sort of present going into this year as well.
That's great. You said something which actually I was thinking out in the background when you're talking, which was when I do these interviews, and this is my fourth year doing it, certain themes come out. And one year it was all about supply chain, which was post-pandemic. Then it was sustainability. And then last year was more about AI and machine learning. So you sort of mentioned algorithms there. So are those three areas, though, still important, or have they sort of been sort of moved on now and you're thinking about other things? Or how important is sustainability, the access to the supply chain, and AI in terms of what you do and so the instrumentation you're creating and the work that you're doing? Maybe, Madhu, you want to start?
Absolutely. It's interesting that you bring up sustainability, because I think that there is a distinct difference between Europe and the US when it comes to sustainability. I think, being a European company, we're very committed to sustainability. I think in the US, we have a slightly different view on it. And post-pandemic, I think it still remains a priority for us as a European company. But the focus in the US is, and 60% of our customer base is in the US, is maybe not so much. I am not the expert on supply chain logistics, so I'm going to let Jan handle that one. But from the AI sort of ML perspective, I personally think it's fantastic, and I'm definitely not an in silico expert. I come from, a background where I've done drug development in the past, but screening as well. I've done a lot of cheminformatics, so my interaction has always been with big data, but with the experts where I've not been the expert. So I've seen a lot of this predictive modeling, and it's very fascinating to me. The fact that we at InSphero can build human relevant models, right? With patient tissue, with patient cells, not cell lines, that have like sort of digressed and diverted from their original schema, so to speak, in cell culture, but actual patient models, and use that to develop predictive models, to me is extremely powerful. I think that really is a sign of very, very of real prediction to come in terms of being able to build good models. And for us, what that means really is, whether you're talking about genetic diseases like an NF1 clinical trial, where you could develop a model just based on genetic backgrounds, or you're talking about oncology, you can either develop an IND and go straight to the clinical trial using our model, or you can work for a company that has an oncology pipeline and completely de-risk whatever model they want to take to the clinical trial. So it gives us different ways of modeling our business depending on what the pipeline or disease is that they're going after.
Brilliant. And yeah, before I come to you, I'm just going to sort of highlight that point you made about sustainability and the difference between the US and Europe. When I've asked that question to Europeans, when we talk about sustainability, they talk about the environment. When often I've asked Americans about sustainability, they've talked about making the business sustainable in terms of surviving. So it just shows what you mean about the interpretation, what sustainability actually means to a European and what it maybe means to someone in North America. So yeah, anyway, coming on to your, asking you the same question though, I mean, in those sort of trends which were in the past, how much are they still influential in terms of what you're doing now?
Starting with sustainability, on the environmental level, all of our customers who use our solutions to replace animal testing are already making a contribution to sustainability, because animal tests are not just an ethical concern, they are also very, very power, water, and generally energy hungry, and have a pretty substantial CO2 footprint. If you just think about the energy that's needed to ventilate and climatize and so on, an animal testing facility, it's pretty substantial. And if you can run this in a miniaturized in vitro fashion, then of course you're already making a contribution here. Supply chain was an issue for us during the pandemic. I think it's the same for everybody.
Yeah.
But availability has recovered, right? So we're not running into major issues on that end. We need still to improve our supply chain as we grow. It's more important to make sure that we have the right contracts in place, that we have the right warehousing in place. But that's just the growth pains that a company has. Of course, raw material cost has increased quite substantially. Shipping cost has increased quite substantially. And that's an effect that we need to transfer on the shoulders of our customers. There's really not much that we can do, because then I come back to the American understanding of sustainability. We want to be sustainable as a company, and we've seen some companies in the 3D cell culture space vanishing in the last 1-2 years. And this is not just painful for the startup entrepreneurs and for their investors and for their employees. It's also a real problem for the end users, because they invested time and money into implementing these solutions and characterizing them and maybe already generating data sets. And then if a solution is not available anymore, then it's no good to no one, right? And so our goal from a company perspective is to grow sustainably and to be robust and resilient as a company, because we want to be there for the next 50 years to support pharma and biotech customers. And to that end, we also need to start operating as a profitable commercial company. And I think that transition we've made successfully over the past years, and that allows us to also grow from our own strength and not through investments, but just because of the profitability that we have as a company, and that's quite important on that sustainability level. AI has been a substantial driver for us in 2024, and will continue to add to our business in 2025 as companies in the machine learning space, generative AI space, start to cherish the quality both in breadth and depth that we can generate with our solutions. And as these models are getting better and going into additional disease types, I think we'll see a lot more projects coming out of that space, and that's quite exciting.
Fantastic. Well, look, let's look ahead now to 2025, and you touched about some of the things in 2025 in your previous comments. And also, at the very start of this, we also talked about the fact that you were at JP Morgan this week, which often is where people start to get an idea of what they think 2025 is going to be like. So, yeah, from your perspective, and not just obviously what JP Morgan said, but from your own personal point of view, what do you think the year holds for the market? I mean, how positive are you on a macro level about the market?
So I leave San Francisco with a pretty positive feeling about the market development in 2025. We see that there is a growing M&A activity, which is always a good sign, right? Where new licensing agreements being signed. As I mentioned briefly, I think ADCs will be a very hot topic for us in 2025 as well, which is also good for us because especially if you think about these more complex modalities, you need an equivalent complex 3D model to be able to generate good translational data. It has been difficult for companies in our space, but also lab automation in general or instrumentation to grow in the past year because small and large players kept their cash pretty tight to their chest. And that's understandable in that market environment. But I think we see a certain easing up. We see the necessity to invest into innovative technologies. And for us, we've not seen any slowing down last year, right? So we were pretty much at capacity, grew the business 45%. And we plan to continue to do this year, primarily driven by faster adoption in the industry and more substantial investments into precision microtissue technology by pharma companies.
Madhu, have you anything to add to that?
I think as yes, Jan mentioned, we've seen some of the smaller players disappear. So I'm very optimistic about the fact that in this whole ecosystem of NAMs, there is a realization that we can't do it on our own, right? So we have to build this community. We all know where we live in this community, and that if we work together, we can really provide this solution to all of our sort of pharma and biotech friends. I really do think that we will all end up working together to make this a reality, and that we won't just be one or two, but we'll be 5 steps closer to really closing that gap in drug discovery.
Right. Well, that leads nicely to my next question, which is looking ahead to what you think the trends will be for 2025, both from a technology point of view, maybe other things we should be looking out for. And you've touched on some of that already, but perhaps you'd like to start, Madhu.
Yes. So I think we've done a lot of work in the toxicology space. A lot of people have been, and this is true, right? It doesn't matter how good your drug is in the efficacy space. If it's not safe, it's never going to go anywhere. But I think what has really been amazing to me has been the disease modeling space in using human relevant systems. So I just see that blossoming, and especially in the disease model space, being able to use patient relevant cells across disease models, the ability to model the immune component in every disease, which is the underlying component in pretty much every disease, that has been sort of transformative. That's been the transformative component for every disease. That's only going to grow, and there's going to be a lot of sort of cross-reactivity between diseases there. So I'm very, very optimistic for a lot of the disease models and what's going to come out of that.
Right. And yeah, what would you like to add in terms of trends for 2025?
Yeah, so for me, the two trends that I expect are customer centricity and collaboration. Customer centricity for me means that in 2025 and the years after, I think we'll see that the solutions that will grow the fastest are those that are developed to address and alleviate a specific customer need. And it sounds normal, right? This is how most businesses run, but in innovative areas, emerging markets like 3D cell culture and organ on chips, there's very often a technology drive. So technologies are developed in academic environments and then spun out into startup companies, and then these technologies are brought to market, and you look basically for a problem to solve with your technology. And it's not a bad thing, right? It happens all the time. But as the market matures and as we want to go into really scalable areas, the focus needs to be on customer needs, right? We cannot push technology into the market that people don't need. We need to figure out where the needs are and then develop solutions that are as complex as necessary and as simple as possible to address the customer needs. And to that end, the second topic, collaboration, is the key, bringing together science, technology, commercial exploitation, commercial solutions, and also the regulatory perspective. If we start working a little bit more hand in hand, I think we can create a lot of value for the industry, but ultimately for the patient, and that's where it really counts.
Great. Now, this is always a tricky question when I ask people about what's going to happen in 2025 from a company perspective, because we're at the beginning of the year and there's so much top secret stuff that you don't want to share at the moment or you're working on. I'll start with you, Madhu, and Jan can finish off perhaps. So, Madhu, what can we expect from InSphero in 2025? See, you don't know what you can say then. Yeah.
I think in terms of expectations, we are the model of excellence, and you can expect much more of that as we go into 2025.
All right. And yeah, what can we expect from InSphero in 2025?
Yeah, continuing growth, continuing market leadership. I think without giving too much away, we are looking at our first acquisitions to integrate into InSphero, which is a hugely exciting topic for us, right? Typically, as a startup, you're more on the receiving end of it.
Yeah.
So now we're a bit in a different situation. But as I said, one of the concerns that we have as a management team is that we believe the market's too fragmented, and if we want to make sure that some of this fantastic science that is out there, either in academic groups or in smaller startups, ultimately makes it to the market as a high quality solution that is there to stay, then we feel that we are in a fantastic position with the infrastructure that we have, with the production capabilities that we have, with the processes, with our certifications like ISO 9001, and of course also with a great marketing and business development team to bring those solutions to where they can then create impact. And so adding additional technologies under our belt that have not been developed by us, but that are fantastic and that fit our strategy and fit our culture. I think that's one of the things that I'm looking forward in this year.
Right, fantastic. Now, viewers, if you happen to be at SLAS 2025 in San Diego and you want to learn more about InSphero and maybe question Jan and Madhu about the answers they gave me today, whether you agree or disagree, or maybe delve deeper into the secrets of what they're going to do in 2025, you can catch Jan and Madhu on the InSphero booth at SLAS 25, as well as many other events throughout the year. And you can follow them on LinkedIn, because they have a very active LinkedIn page. Jan's very active on LinkedIn himself. I know that because he's always tagging me to make sure I like his post. But he's very, very active on LinkedIn, as is Madhu as well. But the whole team is, and they've got a fantastic LinkedIn page with loads of great information on it. So make sure you follow them on LinkedIn as well, and also their website. But I'm going to ask you guys to finish off this conversation with what your wishes are for 25 to the viewers. 2025, final word for 2025 for everybody who's watching. So, Madhu, would you like to start? What would you like to wish everybody for 2025, and what your thoughts are?
Engagement, much more engagement. I think that would be great. We've seen a lot of it in 2024. There's a lot more engagement by younger career scientists with very innovative ideas. I'd love to see much more of that.
Brilliant. And yeah.
Yeah, what I would wish is security and safety for everybody, right? So that we can shine as scientists, and at the same time can also have the family and be the family, work with or spend time with the family members peace of mind is really important. And we are living in quite uncertain times, right? Not just from a business perspective, from a political perspective. So I believe for us to be our best is always easier in a safe and certain environment than in an uncertain environment. So that would be my wish. And I have a wish for Madhu, because you talk about SLAS. Madhu is the newest board member to
Congratulations,
SLAS.
Madhu.
Starts her tenure this year, and I think she'll be very impactful on the future development of this fantastic society. So it's great for us to have her.
Following in Jan's footsteps.
Yeah, well, you both. Well, I know Jan's was brilliant. I'm sure you will be brilliant as well. So, and well said, Jan. Actually, all that stuff when he says, "Well, thank you both for taking the time out to talk to me." Just so you know, viewers, we didn't really ask this at the beginning, but Jan is on the West Coast in San Francisco at the moment, and Madhu is on the East Coast, and obviously I'm in the UK. So they've all got together just to get this together. But it was a really interesting conversation. I'm really grateful for you sharing the time with me today. I wish you lots of success, but most of all, I wish everybody a happy, healthy, and safe 2025. And I look forward to seeing both of you in San Diego in a couple of weeks' time. And hopefully I'll see you viewers either in San Diego or a show near you sometime in 2025. So until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.